All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Hampton Township Council for Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. We'll start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Present.
Dr. Doherty?
Present.
Ms. Fritsch?
Present.
Mr. Kernick?
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Speakman?
Present.
All right, first item on the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the voting meeting held Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, and both the special and the agenda meetings held Wednesday, September 13th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor. All right, next item is citizens' agenda matters. If anyone has anything that they would like to address to council, please step up to the podium and state your name and your address.
My name is Al Todd, and I'm at 2179 Linwood Drive. And I've been a 24-year resident of Hampton Township. I'm a financial planner. And probably what I'm known best for, though, is stopping traffic on Route 8 early December every year, where we donate bicycles to the Marines and the Toys for Tots program. We hosted a first responders picnic, just simply as a thank you to our firemen, our police officers, and our EMS team, just to say thank you. And it's truly my honor to do this for them. We appreciate all that they do. My family has benefited from their services too many times. But I started a couple of years ago to have a tug-of-war contest. I thought I'd spur a little competition between the departments. And it was very fun this year, but the teams got all kind of mixed up. And so we ended up with like 8 teams, and what we found is the winning team, I went back and looked at the picture, and with some help of people in the community, identified that actually the winning team had a member of both fire departments, the police department, and the EMS. It was the only team that had that. So I thought that was kind of a great example of the teamwork that I know goes on that we do not see. I do want to recognize this year, I'd like to bring up my associate Christina. We were able to go into the community and we actually solicited donations. We had some gift cards, different restaurants, all kind of things that we were give away as prizes for our water balloon toss and whatnot. So Christina, you just want to let everybody know who the businesses are who made donations.
We had Bean Through Shaler, the Clubhouse Gibsonia, Chick-fil-A McKnight Road, Giant Eagle in Gibsonia donated the cake. Knox is on 8, Tequila Jalisco actually donated a $50 gift card, and then Starbucks of Allison Park. And we also did a NHCO food bank drive, and we actually raised $250 to $300 in non-perishable items that we took to NHCO.
But thank you to everyone in the community. It was difficult for me when I get the trophy made. I didn't know what to put on it, so because it had members of each department. So I came up with a solution. I'd like to invite our police chief, Eric, if you'd come up, because they have graciously agreed to have a short wrestling match.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
I don't ever quit with that taser.
That's funny.
For the record, how many bicycles to bring down Route 8 last year?
Last year there was 583 of them.
Is that all?
That was, sorry, I apologize.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I would like to tweet this with Chief Lockman, because we already have one of our safe from last year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Al, thank you so much for hosting the first responders picnic. All right, does anyone else have anything that they'd like to address to council for citizens' agenda matters? All right, then moving on to administration, please.
Okay, item A under administration is the manager recommends enactment of an ordinance establishing the terms and conditions of employment for the person who's going to replace me. Boy, I just thought about this. I get a chance to actually recommend the ordinance to replace. You've had a chance to talk about this. This was properly advertised, and you can pursue it this evening if you wish to do so.
Does anyone have any questions? Ordinance number, please.
861.
All right, then can I get a motion to enact Ordinance 861, establishing the terms and conditions of employment for Ryan Jarosky?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, item B is I recommend the adoption of a resolution establishing terms and conditions of employment for Ryan Jarosky as the municipal manager effective February 2, 2024, and this gives you the opportunity then for a full 2-year agreement.
Does anyone have any questions? Resolution number?
1085.
All right, then can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 1085, establishing the terms and conditions of employment for Ryan Jarosky as municipal manager effective February 2nd, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item C is a recommendation by myself authorizing the advertisement of an ordinance establishing a strategy for the use of investment earnings derived from the township's 2019 and 2022 bond issues. There's just one item with regard to that ordinance. I will contact our bond counsel, Ron Brown, with regard to it. There was a list of projects as an appendix, and they were supposed to say, and other capital projects. He didn't add that. I will have that added, so you can consider that in October. But all you're doing is advertising the title of the ordinance right now.
Anyone have any questions? Yes, you have questions, or no, you don't? Okay. All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the manager to advertise an ordinance establishing a strategy for the use of investment earnings derived from the township's 2019 and 2022 bond issues?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, the next item has to do with the township's minimum municipal obligations for 2024. The manager recommends approval of the 2024 minimum municipal obligations for the general employees pension plan, the police pension plan, and the general employees defined contribution pension plans. And you should have a memo in your packet that explains all of that. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them. If not, this is a housekeeping matter. By law, you have to do this.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the 2024 minimum municipal obligations for the general employees pension plan, police pension plan, and the general employees defined contribution pension plan?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
The next item is the manager recommends approval of the 2024 budget development goals and objectives. You should have a list of those, not only in the system but at your place. There was one addition that was made to the ones that are in the system, and that is item number 9, which is the study of meadow field lighting and synthetic turf surface options, which was requested by actually Dr. Ann, Julie, Mrs. Fritsch. So both of you requested it. I've added it. Again, the idea behind these goals and objectives is you will see strategies within the budget which will attempt to address each and every item that's been identified.
Hey, did anyone have any questions or any comments? All right. Julie, Joe, thank you for catching that omission. Can I get a motion to approve the 2024 budget development goals and objectives?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item F is the manager recommends authorization to advertise for bids regarding the South Pioneer Road Safety Improvements Project. This is in conjunction with an RLE grant that the township has.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the manager to advertise for bids regarding the South Pioneer Road Safety Improvements Project?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Dougherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item G is a housekeeping matter. The manager requests endorsement of the township's 2023-2024 insurance renewals. We did cover this. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do it during the month of August, so thus we're doing it now.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to endorse the township's 2024 insurance renewals?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Dougherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item H is the manager recommends approval of the community library lease and personnel agreements based on the information that was provided during the last meeting. We didn't clean it up, but we just left it there so you could see what the changes would be. We will clean it up after, as long as there's no objection to the basis behind it.
Anyone have any questions or comments? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the community library lease and personnel agreements per the manager's recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Dougherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, the next item is the manager recommends approval of the Cross Creek Township, Pennsylvania Turnpike Agreement. Be more than happy to answer any questions with regard to this. Again, we're serving as kind of a middleman here for the residents, and the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission has already approved this agreement.
Any questions or any concerns? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the Cross Creek Township PA Turnpike Agreement per the manager's recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Dougherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item J is an item I think we're going to need to discuss, but I'll get it up on the floor this way. The manager recommends award of a contract regarding the tennis court / pickleball courts replacement project. You should have a memo with me with regard to this dated September the 22nd, in which I look at it this way. You pretty much have four options, and I identified them in that memorandum. You could award a conventional approach bid and redo the tennis courts at $449,365, and you would do that with El Grande, who is the low bidder. That is a higher bid than the earlier bids we received. Option 2 is you could award to the low bidder with regard to the synthetic type surface. The surface that we looked at was presented by the Players Edge Group out of Illinois. Their bid was $218,508.09. Your third option would be to contact the Hampton Township School District and put simply ask them if they would like to make up the difference between the low bid for the synthetic surface and the high bid amount, which was $449, which would mean they'd have to come up with the differential of over $200,000. But because of the fact that the school district was notified by the township of this particular project, and the district did express a concern with regard to the tennis courts and the WPIL, I would think you might want to reach out to them just as a courtesy to get their input into the process. And of course, your other option is you can just reject all the bids and you can go forward with it next year. I would hesitate to do that. I don't think your situation's going to improve. I don't care what options you use. I think you're going to run into the exact same problem again. Probably the thing to do here, if you would have no objection, if you're all amenable to it, would be to just table it off, forward a letter over to the school district and ask them for their input one way or the other, and then come back in the next month and then make an award one way or the other, depending on how they want to pursue it. I certainly can understand the district's position if they don't want to do so, because I don't believe they have it budgeted for it, but it's still a courtesy to them that they should really at least should have that opportunity for input. Other than that, I don't know how you want to do this.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
I guess first, and this is based on my my visit to the county courts over at North Park, which are great. They don't have any cracks. I know they're newer, but the other thing they don't have is paint. They have striping, but they don't have a painted surface.
Do they use the tile, the modular surface, or
No,
they use
it's
regular surfaces?
asphalt
Okay.
like ours. They're very similar to ours.
They don't have the competitive coat though on top of them. It's asphalt. It's just an asphalt coating top.
Well, this has the competitive coat. It says color code for tennis courts, and that's about $100,000 in one, a little more than that in the other one, and then there's striping. So what is the competitive coat?
It's about a 1/4 inch surface. It's
That's that little thin stuff that you see
Right.
no matter what the course is. But is that a color? That's got a color to it.
you can make it any color you want. It's the actual material that goes over top of the asphalt.
All right, and then additionally, what is the super paved bituminous fiber reinforced? There's a 1/2 inch coat, and then there's an 1.5 inch coat. Those are about 75,000. What is the difference between that and this color coat?
That is the repair of the asphalt cracks and the foundation, if you will. The Keller coat would sit over top of it.
So is it the top coat of the asphalt, the finish coat of the asphalt, or is that something else?
The way the project, as I understand the specifications were laid out, the repair would be to saw cut the cracks, fill them with an asphalt surface, and then go over top of it with the competitive coated surface.
Well, this has $100,000 in it for saw-cut 12-inch wide section of pavement.
Right.
Centered on existing cracks in pavement, including removal and installation of 4-inch under drain and trench paving. So it sounds like they're putting in a French drain.
Well, the stone would go underneath it no matter what.
I get that, but it says 4-inch under. Is it 4 inches? Is it just 4 inches of stone? Is that what it's trying to say?
No, I took it as 4 inches of asphalt, and the stone base would go underneath it.
Well, I mean, I just am shocked that it's $500,000 is the low bid.
Yeah, we weren't too real happy about it either.
Yeah, and I look at this, and I mean, was this the scope document that they bid,
I would
or was
assume.
there something else? Do we know?
No, these were the actual component pieces of the bid.
And the reason I ask is because there are quantities on here. Now, I mean, maybe the government world is different, but normally on a commercial project, when you bid something, the contractor goes out and figures out the quantities, and then if you ask them for a unit price, they may give you a unit cost. Did we give them the quantities, and they both bid the quantities?
I can't understand. I would assume we did, but I don't know per se.
Well, I mean, maybe the bidding should be this high, but I just feel like it's completely out of line. I mean, I think moving on the paths that you're suggesting with the school district is great, but I would also like to understand how this was scoped.
Sure.
Where did that come from? Does Gateway figure out the scope? Do we pay them to figure out the scope? And then the contractors go in and all they do is put a unit price on the quantities.
I'll be honest with you, I really don't know specifically in this project. I've seen it done both ways. If you want to table it off, we certainly can have Mr. Seitz here next month to explain exactly, or to answer each part of those questions. I really don't know that micro part of the specifications.
Okay, and are we able to ask him, why are the county parks so much better than our version?
Well, he's going to tell you because there's no competitive surface on top of it.
That's why they've worn better?
Yeah, their recreational tennis courts do not have a competitive top surface to them.
Okay. I don't understand how that could make it crack.
Well, I don't know that part. I really don't. I can't
Yeah.
answer that. But
So I like the idea of reaching out to the school district and not asking them for a dollar amount, but to get their thoughts on the project and what role, if any, they want to be involved in. And then maybe we need to have a conversation. I am curious, though, because whether it's a school district, whether it's a township, it's still taxpayer money.
It is.
If there's a way to get, if there's grants available, even through, so the tennis world, whatever that governing body is, if we're making these courts so that you can play at least in part competitively on it, will U.S. Tennis, or I don't even know what the governing boards are. I'm lost when it comes to tennis, but is there money out there that we can use to help fund this project? And is that something that Gateway would know, or is that something that we sort of have to figure out?
we'd have to research it. Gateway may know it. I really don't know one way or the other. I know there's obvious grant programs through DCNR, the Department of Conservation Natural Resources, DCED, which is the Department of Community and Economic Development, which we have gotten grants for from the trail and other things. I really don't know if there is one specifically like through the USTA, which is the United States Tennis Association.
There it is.
I really don't know that.
I also think there are specs in that cut sheet, or that little, those specs that I sent you from the WTO or whatever it was for that asphalt, which I think Joe said that it was the porous asphalt. I was not convinced that it was. And one thing that they did was they put rebar in the scratch coat, in the undercoat, to prevent the cracking. And they basically said you need to wait some period of time before you put the color coat on it. And you use a really fine asphalt for the top coat. And, you know, I'm just curious about the specs. Did Gateway actually tell these guys, these contractors, that they need to build it per a certain spec, or was it just this bid sheet? This bid sheet is very specific.
Like I said, I can't answer it per se. I can only assume, and I'd rather not do that.
Okay.
Can I just clarify, number 11 on, let's see, which bid is this? I don't know which, it's number 11, it's where it's got all of the specs. It's from where Rock was reading from, but it's further down. Provide and install tennis court practice board, is that the single player board that?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was in
Oh,
there
yeah,
and I
it was
understood
in
what
there.
that was. Okay. But I agree with Julie. I think we need to have a conversation with the school district. It's kind of crazy how expensive this is. I mean, I think about how much we put into our road program, and
This is bonkers.
you know, and the miles of road that we get for like the equivalent price, and we're talking about, you know.
There's an
Tennis courts is
expression.
crazy.
I'm sure I'm sorry for interrupting, but when I looked at this, the expression that came to mind in construction is basically mystery is money. That if you're not really sure of exactly what the scope is, you're going to have a higher price. And that's my concern here when I look at all these things with a little bitty description of what's required and the big difference in the costs from the two bidders. Something's definitely weird.
So we've been relying on the school district telling us that the PIA won't let them have playoff matches there. Has anybody actually reached out to PIA to say what are your specs required for a tennis court?
You mean for those the grid thing for that one?
No, for any of it. Because all the school district was telling us was that it needs to be this type of surface in order for us to get Whitfield games or PIA games here, but
Right.
we don't know what those actual specs are. we've just been relying on their word.
I did not reach out to the WPIL or the PIAA. The school district's athletic department, from what I was told, third party.
And the reason why I asked is because they host Whitfield games at North Park.
I don't know what to tell you.
I think that's part of the conversation.
Yeah, so can we save $100,000 and not put that surface on there? And maybe that's a compromise between that mesh grid and a college level tennis tournament.
Well-
$100,000 is a lot of money.
No, all specifications for the township are always written that you can reject any or all bids, or a portion thereof. So certainly, after a conversation with Mr. Seitz to confirm that, I would assume you could easily do that if you wanted to do that. My understanding was because the grid surface was so new, the WPAL would not endorse it.
Which I get from a grid perspective, but if North Park doesn't have that competitive top coat and they're hosting Whitfield matches,
And the thing is, what if the competitive top coat is one of the reasons that the asphalt cracked, that it can't evaporate? I mean, I
don't
think
know.
these are significant questions, and is it possible to get the school to set up a meeting with the school district?
Sure.
And I don't know, even like a video meeting with Joe. I mean, I think all these questions need to be put to them.
Well, if you decide to table it off, what I would suggest is you just come back at your October work session meeting and you put those people in the room. I would assume the school district athletic director would be more than happy to come over because he would be the conduit between the school board and yourselves anyway on the school district side. So, and then Gateway would certainly have a representative here, and it would probably be Joe Sykes.
That would be great.
could we get somebody from the PIAA? If you get somebody from the Whitfield, it's likely to be another local high school administrator, but I'd like to hear it from the state level.
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Or the county.
Well, you could get somebody from the county, but the problem is, what we're talking about is the sports side of it. Would the WPIL sanction the courts after they were completed for competitive high school matches? And if the answer to the question is yes, then great. With the top coat or without it, I really don't know. But I don't think that the WPIL, I think the problem you're going to have is the PIAA and the WPIL, as you probably know from your coaching days, don't always quite define things exactly the same. And we would be lucky to find somebody from the PIAA to come out here. Probably from Whitfield we could.
No, but the school district could check with them, and I mean, based on this discussion, I would think the school district athletic director could check with both organizations in the next 2 weeks. It seems like a reasonable thing.
I would think he could. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I really don't know.
I will only say that the township receives no revenue from the school district being able to host WPIAL tournaments. So I'm not quite sure that I understand the level of concern to hosting that tournament when it's nice for the school district, but if the school district wants it, they need to pony up. It's not the township. Those courts were absolutely full the last 2 Saturday mornings. They were full this evening, so they are being actively used for our recreational purposes. But I just, if we got revenue out of it to help offset costs if they host a tournament, then it'd be a different matter. But I don't believe we have we receive any.
Well, let's clarify one thing real quick. You're absolutely correct that we don't get anything from it. The district is saying that no WPIL sanctioned event, meaning it could just be a tennis match between Hampton and Knock, or in the section, can be held on courts that have the grid on it. They will not recognize them for that purpose. So if that would be if the surface would be put on there, the only thing that the school district could use it for is practice. When they actually have to host their own home matches, they'd have to find another location to do them because the WPL would consider it a forfeit if they were played on there.
And they'd be at a disadvantage because playing on that grid surface has got to be a lot different than playing on another surface.
Well, for me, the question is whether to put top coat on or not, the competitive top coat. And I don't,
That's
can't remember what that was
$100,000.
spec'd out in there, but if we don't need it and the Whitfield doesn't need it,
How long does the top coat last? I mean, like you put it on, like how long does it take to wear off, given our weather and our use?
Usually life expectancy in most tennis courts under conditions where they don't really crack is about 10 to 12 years. That's about it.
So, $10,000 a year for paint, right?
Well, yeah, there's like a 1/4-inch coat that goes. The best way to describe it is kind of like what we put on the floors up in the community center, but it's a lot more like grittier. You literally pour it on and spatula it out. That's how they put it down.
So we table it until next month, and we have another discussion at our working session, and there's a possibility that we table it again or we make a change in scope based on a discussion with the school district. Is that where we're at?
That's what it sounds like. We certainly can't move forward with the nearly $500,000 to do the competitive surface that we budgeted, what, $200,000 for this?
And that mesh, I mean, I wouldn't even want to have a regular game. I mean, I think it's a really subpar surface for our residents, that mesh.
That's fine.
But, so our tennis courts were redone less than 10 years ago, correct?
2014.
So I wonder, and I think it's a good question that we need to know the answer, is that one, the top coat necessary, and two, is it the reason why we're cracking now? It didn't last quite the 10 years.
We know the answer.
What is the answer to that?
Michelle was involved with this, so she can jump into. Foligno Construction did the original tennis courts. Okay, when they did them, if you take a look at the way they're cracking where every asphalt seam is. You can literally stand on the court; it's a perfect line from fence to fence. So everywhere they put the seams together. Right. So when we attempted to foreclose on the bonds, okay, it was determined that it was definitely the asphalt surface, not the competitive top coat. And we can get into a long legal discussion as to what occurred and how it didn't work out and whatever. But the bottom line here is that the material that was put down by Foligno is argumentatively not what it should be.
They aligned the joints. So there's two coats, the scratch coat on the bottom, and then they aligned and they used an asphalt spreading machine. That's what it looks like.
Sure.
And they basically just, instead of offsetting it a half grid, they just aligned the joints. And on a road, you'd put a line of tar there.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get the line of tar.
No, we got the line of tar. The problem is that the asphalt material that was used, we argued was subpar. The only way we could ever prove that we would be right would be to tear the courts out, take out sections of the courts, and then have it tested. We might win, we may not. We came to the conclusion that by the time we would go through all those costs, and with all due respect to legal fees associated with them, it was better just to say, you know what, we'll go as close to as we can to 10 years and then call it a day and start over.
And this is why I'm asking about the scope document. So if the scope document said you cannot align the joints, then they would have been compelled to not align the joints. If our only scope document is that bid sheet, which is possible, then I think we need to do better, especially if we're paying Gateway hourly for this. That spec that I sent you, basically, I mean, it had a specific requirement for the type of asphalt that went into the top coat for a tennis court. I don't know that Foligno, I mean, you know, they could argue that they didn't have a chance because they didn't have a good spec.
Well, they certainly could. But keep in mind the information you just shared has to do with the top coat, not the base coat. The base coat's the problem.
Yeah, but you still, if we told them they can't align the joints, if we didn't tell them they can't align the joints, then they're free to align the joints. I think, you know, if we're going to point the finger anywhere, it's the scope document.
It may be, I don't know, I can't answer that part of it. I know that there was the document we have is actually like this thick. I don't know if it's, I don't believe it's just that, but I can't answer it, so I'd rather let Gateway answer it.
Okay.
All right, then, given the discussion, can I have a motion to table this item until such time as we are able to get more information from our engineers and are able to communicate with the school district?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor. All right, the next item is the North Hills COG. However, the Executive Council did not meet this month, so I will defer to the manager.
Most of the discussions we had have to do with the budget development process at the COG, and also, and I'm trying to think of her name, the new employee we have, Kathy something, I can't think of her last name, who just literally started on Monday. So it was about 8 months before we were able to replace the employee that we originally tried to replace the first time, and then ran into a problem with her replacement, and now we seem to think, we believe we're where we need to be. So the COG is going to be moving forward with regard to its operations. The budget, I would anticipate, will probably be approved at the next executive board meeting, which would be in October. So
Okay.
we'll see how it goes. I, like everything, frankly, I would anticipate that there'll be an increase in dues costs with regard to the, I call it SWAT. I know, what's the official term, Tom? I can't think of the name of it.
It's the SRT, isn't it?
SRT, the SRT, yeah. There'll be a cost increase in that because of just the equipment concerns that they have to deal with. So I would expect that we'll look at some kind of an increase in that. We'll probably look at somewhat of a small increase too on the stormwater side for them as well. I believe our straight dues arrangement is in place. I don't believe the population changes will have any real effect on it. But there'll be a little bit higher cost from the COG side.
All right, any questions? Then Water Authority monthly report, anything to add?
I missed the meeting on Monday, so I have nothing to add.
All right, Engineers monthly report.
I have nothing to add unless there are questions.
Legal Counsel monthly report.
Nothing to add, Madam President.
Controllers monthly report.
Ryan, this is abnormal. I have nothing to add.
Oh my goodness. That's very unusual.
I will say that we've had some preliminary meetings with department heads, with 3 of the newer ones to orient toward the budgeting process, and we are working on a schedule in mid-October to have a sit-down with Rob and Chris and myself and the department heads. So
Right.
we're working on that.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask a controller-related question?
Of course.
Is it possible in your monthly report to get, I mean, we get engineers' reports, but what we don't see is how much they are costing us. I mean, it's the same thing with legal. Is that something that can be identified, like on a month-to-month basis?
The engineers.
Yes, how much we're paying them. Would anyone else be curious? I know Carolyn, I know you must know because you write the checks, or you sign the checks.
I sign them.
We can develop a little, here's what the monthly payment is. I will tell you that on a month-to-month basis, it is not substantial.
Okay.
What is substantial is the bill that comes along with the road paving program. And with that, if you want to see the detail of what they charge related to the road program, we can do that as they submit it. It's a very itemized, detailed explanation of what they do and what they're charging. And it has been last year, and it looks like it probably will be this year, is under the amount that we have generally allocated in that road paving program.
I think some periodic overview or oversight, I mean, I feel like it would be helpful. If nobody agrees with me, you know, I'm willing to let it drop, but I'm curious.
You could give them the vendors list if you want.
Pardon me?
I said we could print off the vendors list and tell them what's going on if you wanted to do that.
Yeah. Oh, we'll work up something and include it in the packet. Won't you worry, Rob?
Where's Julie? The only problem I see, a lot of times there are literally, 18 different projects that one of these engineering companies could be working on. So if you look at $20,000 for a given month, that could be spread over 12, 15 projects. So I don't think the total number is really going to do it for you.
No, but we get to see things like, our payroll or, the amount of money that's coming in and going out. But, I'm just curious about the cost of engineering of our consultants.
The other thing to keep in mind is that a significant amount of the engineering goes into the planning and
Escrow.
and development. So it's out of escrow. It's not out of our general operating fund. I do review and sign, of course, and approve all those invoices. That makes it much more difficult for us to be able to pull a number together rather than just looking what's going into our general operating fund account for engineering.
Yeah, because we don't pay escrows. In other words, the developers put that money aside for us as part of the developers agreement. When engineering bills come in, we put that up against the escrow account, so we are not expending that cash.
That's the engineer's review of a project that gets submitted.
It could be anything. It could be the engineer's review, it could be inspection work that they're at, it could be that the developer comes and says, I want to make a change with regard to the design of sanitary sewers like they did in Wynmont. It could be almost anything. If it has anything to do with a specific development or that there's escrow funds for, we will immediately charge it to the escrow account. So it's a cost, but it's not a cost that we're actually bearing.
Yeah, the developer pays
Pays
it
for it.
eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
And frankly, I would think the majority of our bills are going to be in that area. They're going to be in the escrow side because of development. But we'll let's work through something, figure something out.
It's an ongoing, lifelong learning process.
No problem.
Thank you for your patience.
All right, next item, Information Technology Monthly Report. Anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right, and I have nothing to add to the library report unless there are questions. All right, Public Safety then, please.
I have nothing to add to my report unless there are questions.
EMS report, please.
I, of course, have a couple of things. Quickly, you should have my data report for the month. Noted 138 calls in Hampton Township for the month of August. That's a decrease of 12 versus the previous August. Year to date, we're 1,033 calls in the township, which is 6 more than the previous year. Year to date, for the total is 527 calls, or month to date, I'm sorry, 527 calls, an increase of 87. And year to date, 4,185 calls, an increase of 802, all related solely to the emergency volume is very flat. It's the new the non-emergency transport service we started last November. Going through the data, the only thing of note is we did have a 13-minute response time for an E1 call. I looked at it, it was just simply an initial response from Shader into the northern part of Hampton. But we see our averages are well below our 9-minute goal for response times for E0s and E1s. Any questions on any of the data? Okay. A couple of things very quickly. I think I mentioned this last month, but we have solidified as of today that we're going to move forward. We've been working with Melanie over at the community center. October 10th, we will have an EMT class being hosted at the Hampton Community Center. Representatives from Hampton Fire Department, Northampton Fire Department, Etna Fire Department, Cherryville Department, Cherryville Fire Department, and others that sign up will be taking the course being administered by Community College of Allegheny County. This is an idea of Dan Lennon from Hampton. It was a great idea, and I'm really excited to bring this to the community. I think it's going to be a benefit to all 3 communities that we service for sure. We did, I guess, officially wrap up our subscription campaign. They certainly still trickle in, but we did see a small increase over goal, and I'm happy to say that as always. And then it's Homecoming Friday, and look forward to seeing you all there. Unless there's any questions, that's my report.
Good luck.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good night.
Community Services, please.
Good evening. This evening, I'm asking for authorization to advertise for bids regarding Phase 1 of the Community Park Pond Enhancement Project, which is just removing the vegetation around the pond and the outfall.
All right, did anyone have any additional questions related to this? All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the Assistant Manager to advertise for bids regarding Phase 1 of the Community Park Pond Enhancement Project?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor. All right, Public Works and Parks and Recreation monthly reports. Anything to add?
I have nothing else unless you have questions.
Doesn't seem like it, thank you. Environmental Services.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item I have this evening is the request for authorization to perform cured-in-place pipelining work to township sanitary sewer lines through the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund. And this is through my memo to the manager from September 6th.
Did anyone have any questions related to this? All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the director to perform CIPP lining work to the township sanitary sewer lines through the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Thank you. The next item I have is the request for authorization to pursue the sanitary sewer line replacement project, which resides between 3059 and 3077 McNeil Road through the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund as well, as per my memo from September 6th to the manager.
Any questions related to this? Mr. Whirling, you have a question?
East or west? Good question.
You talking
East.
about,
Location.
yeah, this would be on the longer section from Route 8 going towards Mill Road.
Didn't we just do that like 8 years ago?
No.
All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the director to pursue the sanitary sewer line replacement between 3059 and 3077 McNeil Road through the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Besides my monthly report, just a quick update on the sewer plant construction. The construction's been going very well. A lot of concrete work continues. They're planning on the final pour of our SBRs coming up here the next couple weeks. And the wet well construction for the walls are starting to come up out of the ground. So it's starting to see daylight, which is wonderful. Obviously a ways to go on that, but it's coming along quite well. And a lot of conduit and preparation for the electrical work by our electrical contractors. In addition to that, I also wanted to mention to council, earlier this year, the manager, Mr. Speakman, and I had an opportunity to have a brief conversation about our sanitary sewer tap fees. It is something that we haven't had a chance to look at for some time, and I've started talking to engineering about trying to put together a review of our current tap fee structure and do the analysis to see if an increase should take place moving forward. And we'll have that information available to council before the 24 budget. This is something that is only applied for new taps. This is basically when a new construction takes place to buy their way into our sanitary sewer system, and it is their pass, if you will, into the system to help pay for the infrastructure that already exists and for continued upkeep. So we'll hopefully have a report here sometime in November.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, zoning and planning, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. The first item is the request for release of funds from the sanitary bond for Winmont Farms. This has been discussed. KLH has reviewed this, as has Mr. Degnan's office, and are both recommending approval of the release of $227,168. So I would ask that you approve that tonight.
Anyone have any questions? All right, I'm sorry, what did you say the amount was?
$227,168.
And that's from the sanitary bond.
Correct.
Okay. Then can I get a motion to approve the release of funds from the sanitary bond for the Winmont Farms in the amount of $227,168?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
And I don't have anything to add to my report other than I wanted to mention that after the comments that were made at the last council meeting during Citizen Agenda Matters, I did follow up with Gateway. I asked them to go out to the car wash that is on Wildwood Extension. They went out.
Yeah,
I know.
Mr. Rowling left.
I know. Bad timing. But I'll catch up with him and get him a copy of the report that we got from Gateway. So they did take measurements at 2 different locations. Most relevantly, they took a measurement right at the end of his driveway on Talikebi. So the noise ordinance limits sound to 65 decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Joe Seitz found when he took the measurements that the sounds for all phases of the process were within those limits. So it's comparable sound levels to a vehicle traveling up and down Talikebi. So at this point, they are in compliance. The site itself was approved in 2001, and I wanted to make sure as well that there weren't any changes to the equipment or like doors that had been removed or were being kept open that would have deadened the sound. All of the equipment and machinery, the arrangement of the building appears to be the same as when it was approved. They also have their full buffer in the back. There's quite a thick vegetative buffer of trees between the back of their property and Talikebi. So pretty much everything that I could check to see that they would be deficient on, they are okay on. So I'll make sure Mr. Whirling gets a copy of this if he would like it.
And it was a very nice report.
Good.
It was well done.
Good.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
that's, you're welcome. And unless there are questions, I have nothing else.
And there will be a engineering bill for
I had the exact same thought. This is
Yes, there
ridiculous.
will.
Very well done.
All right, anything else, Jim? Or, I'm getting confused. Amanda, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Sorry, thank you. All right, old business.
I have nothing to add to this on the agenda already.
Just be cautious with Pints in the Park this Friday.
We are aware that it is overlapping with homecoming.
Yeah, we don't anticipate a problem. Really, that's 2 different crowds. So,
I just meant from a traffic.
Do you expect parking or traffic to be an issue?
no, because usually for homecoming, they park at the high school. They don't park in the swimming pool parking lot. So, there may be some traffic dilemmas a little bit, but there won't be a parking problem.
They bust them from the high school.
I know. Yeah, they bus them from high school. So you would have all the community center parking area. You would have all the swimming pool parking lot. You'd have the parking lot in front of the playground area. And if you actually even needed it, you could. We could go all the way down to the soccer building parking lot for Pints in the Park. We're not going to have that kind of a crowd.
Melanie did talk to me about it, and we're gonna make sure that we keep an eye on the park during those hours when they start to arrive for, the game. So,
All right, thank you.
I don't think so. On to new business.
On to new business.
Just a couple information things. First one is I'll be out of the office at the end of this week on Friday, and then for 2 days next week I'll be at the International City Management Association conference, and I'll be back on Thursday. So if you need anything, feel free to give me a call on my cell phone. Okay. And then
Did you say international?
International.
Canada?
No, International City County Management Association is the largest public administrator conference in the country. It'll be about 6,000, give or take. It's in Austin, Texas this year. Not that I really want to go down to Austin right now where it's 102 degrees, but It's in Austin, Texas, and I'm supposed to do an interview with a group down there, so that's one of the reasons why I'm going down for it. There was one thing we didn't cover, and the lady's name was on the agenda. We had received a concern from a resident with regard to a water line, and that individual, I guess is it pronounced Labrovich?
Leibowitz?
Okay. They had a water line that's in the back of a secondary piece of property that they had some concerns and questions with. They were on the agenda tonight for that purpose, but they went to the Water Authority meeting and were able to clear up that problem. But you should be aware of the fact that this had nothing to do with the township in any way. I mean, we were willing to put them on the agenda as a courtesy. I think she was asking for a little bit of coaching. Where do I go? But she was more than willing. When I asked her, she was going to the Water Authority meeting to take that. So I didn't want you to think it was open-ended. We did address it.
And she told me that she was going to go on Monday. And she actually was appreciative that you told her about the meeting. She didn't know that it was a public meeting that she could go to. So hopefully that resolves her issues or helps to
I think she's
in the right direction.
I think she's going to need you to resolve her issue because of your background.
Yeah.
But
She wasn't happy after their meeting?
I really don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to anybody from the Water Authority side, but she must have been okay because she sent me an email and said, thank you very much. We were able to address the matter at the Water Authority meeting, and we won't be attending the council meeting. And I knew that she had talked with Julie. I didn't know she talked with anyone else. I knew Carolyn knew what was going on a little bit. We spent Amanda spent a fairly significant amount of time, and there will be an engineering bill for it. Take a look at it. There'll be a legal bill for it as well, I might add. But we came to the conclusion that there was nothing that we really had done in the process. I could get into a long explanation. I'm not going to. But we did address it, and as I understand it, she's okay. If she isn't, if you would let us know. But as far as I know, everything's okay.
I appreciate it.
And that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, does anyone else have anything that they would like to add for new business? All right, then I will adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
So,